How many downloads of Jim and Bill It's Another Day podcast?
Today, the podcast show has fetched 400 million downloads since its start, and an average of 350,000 downloads per episode, about 3.9 million downloads per week.
Well, hello there. It's another day. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I am Bill Knight. I got a question for you, sir.
Okay.
Have you had your morning cup of right side coffee yet?
Actually, not yet, but I was going to do it during a long piece of audio. You know, we usually have a piece of audio that's a couple minutes long, so I can run over to the coffee pot and pour my right side coffee.
Well, you know what I do when a long piece of audio comes on?
I don't even want
I
to
run
ask.
to the little boy's room.
I didn't want to ask.
And really, that has nothing to do with age. I think it's genetics. You know, some people just have to.
Actually, it's too much right side coffee. But I want to. Yeah, I want to tell you, right side coffee is available right now in our online storefront. All you have to do is go to rightsideshop.com, rightsideshop.com, and you'll see our hats that we're selling and our T-shirts and sweatshirts, and you'll also see Jim and Bill's right side coffee, medium roast and medium decaf roast, and it's a good coffee. You'll like it. And by the way, when you buy stuff in that shop, it helps us. We don't get all the profit. We're not making a lot of money in the shop, but the little bit that we do get is going to go to promotion for the show, so that in the coming year we can do more to enlarge our audience, to make it a bigger audience. Right now we have about 4 million a week right now. We would like to do at least twice that much in the not-too-distant future, and I think we can.
If everybody listening would give us $1 a week.
Yes. We'll send you the address.
Well, there's two of us, $2 a week.
Yeah, that would be nice.
One for you and one for me.
Anyway, we have Juan, Jose, and the Border Crossers still here. This is their big moment, so without any further ado, guys, if you would.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Thank you very much. Juan, Jose, the Border Crossers with the Right Side Coffee jingle, a medley of their hit. Now they go back in the corner and wait for their next opportunity. Hey, Bill, the big story right now, everyone's talking about this assassination of a United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson, in New York. It
was a hit job.
I used to work in New York, and the Hilton was like essentially right across the street from where I was, and a beautiful hotel, a very high-end hotel. As a matter of fact, Bill, it's the hotel that Trump made his acceptance speech in 2016. You know, where he came out at night, 2 in the morning, and said, hey, that was in the Hilton.
A little symbolic there, wouldn't you say? You know, that was a hit. And, you know, when you see the guy walk out, it's like he's familiar, and he was so nonchalant. And so, you know, they say, well, he's young, he's probably an amateur. No, he might be young, but I don't think he's an amateur because he just walked out calmly and then boom, boom, boom.
Well, you made a good observation. It's true. A lot of people wouldn't know that how to clear a gun so easily. I say easily. What to do when your gun jams. Now, people may say, well, why would the gun jam? It jammed twice, I think. They say that he was using subsonic bullets, and he had a silencer on the gun, and the silencer...
He did, I saw him.
Yeah, and the silencer slowed down the bullet, and it essentially made it less effective. So it didn't have the oomph to push the slide back on the handgun. So he had to keep clearing it. But he didn't panic, did he? He just took...
No, which means he's used that before. He knew exactly what to do. You would panic if your gun jammed and you were... You could even be a professional. If it jammed, you'd get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
This guy did not. He was calm, cool, like he was callous. He's done this before. And then somebody said, well, you know, he had a silencer, probably picked that up. I'm going, I've gone to the gun store. I've got guns. And I've looked at silencers, go, I'd like to get that.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't want to go through the paperwork on that. You really can't do that. Get that. We have it here.
Yeah.
But it's going to take you months to get cleared for that, and it's a federal clearance, and chances are you're not going to get it. You know, It's just that simple. You can make them. That was a bot one. That's a professional one. So this guy
he probably got it from the black market, don't you think?
I'm not so sure about that, because if he got it on the black market, again, that goes to somebody that might be a little bit amateurish. I think he's a pro, and I think this was part of his, I don't know, professional gear that might have been given to him. In other words, I might say, in my mind, this is my thoughts, this guy was a professional hit, and it smells of almost something governmental. I don't know what Mr. Thompson was going to say or do, but you got to look at United Healthcare is the biggest insurance provider out there, and insurance is a big key issue. What could he know or have or was going to do? Because you know what? He was, probably the most important insurance guy. He should be walking around with a contingent of bodyguards, but he didn't, because he was not worried. So this stinks.
Yeah, what I noticed right off the bat by looking at the surveillance tape, and by the way, if you haven't seen it, it's online. It's a little graphic. First of all, the media is saying he was shot in the chest. Has anybody looked at the tape? Has anybody looked at the video? Because he shot twice in the back. The guy, the CEO walks by the shooter. The shooter takes aim, and believe me, it's not like he pulls the gun out quickly and fires. He took the gun, he steadied himself with two hands and fired once in the back, once in the leg. The guy went down. His gun jammed. He walked over slowly. He didn't run. He cleared the weapon, and he seemed to fire one more time. Now, he may have hit him in the back when he was on the ground. The guy may have landed on his back when he got shot. But he got shot initially twice from the rear. He was shot in the back, which like any coward would do, right? And then he calmly walked over to New York. They have these electronic bikes that you can rent, and you get on
E-bikes,
these. Yeah, you rent these little mini bikes, or they're electronic. And he just scooted away like he knew exactly where he was going. They say he went down like a back alley, probably between some buildings. He ended up last being seen on Center Avenue in Central Park.
So this is an e-bike that he picked up that you would need a credit card to open this thing up, to unlock it, which by now they should know exactly who this guy is, but they don't. So that tells you something there,
he
too.
used they say he used was it a prepaid card, prepaid money card?
Okay.
Yeah, so there was no account linked to it.
Well, then see, now they need to this prepaid card business needs to be done away with. In other words, if you got to prepay, it's still got to have some documentation on you. Otherwise, forget about it, because you see this over and over. I think he shot the calf first. The idea is to disable him to where he couldn't get away, then shoot him in the back to bring him down, and then when he goes down and he's on his back, then you go in for the kill shot, because they wanted him dead. They didn't want any chance of this guy getting away. So it was just not even rehearsed. It was just he sang this song before this killer.
Another thing is this.
Boom.
The other thing to show his professionalism, I use that in quotes, right? It looked like a woman who was standing in front of the doors closest to the shooter. She had to see his face, or she had to be maybe 10 feet from the shooter. And when he fired at the guy, at the CEO, Thompson, she ran off. She took off in the direction of the shooter by the shooter. She ran away. What amazed me was, if this was a random shooting, the guy would have shot her too, But he had a target. He didn't care who else was standing around him. He fired the weapon. He calmly got on a scooter, and he took off. He wore a black mask, which covered most of his face. But, nowadays they have software that if there's enough of an impression on the face, they can work something out.
Let me throw a wrench into that. Just before the holidays, and you could probably look it up. I don't know what exactly they're called, but you know how guys used to take a pair of pantyhose and leggings from women and put them over their head? They've got now a mask that's just like that, but what would happen is they can put your face on it, that's on this pantyhose mesh.
Yeah.
And I take that and pull it on over my head, and you know how the pantyhose will sit there and form right up to your face, and you can still see and everything. But even though it uses my skull as the mold.
Yeah.
It's your face on me, and I can walk in and look just like you.
That's amazing. And would facial recognition computers see me, or would they see?
They would see you, because that's like, I was seeing that. It was something that was being touted just before Halloween.
Wow.
You know, you remember they used to have the old plastic old man mask, and
Sure.
they'd have the guy putting it on, but they had this thing putting on, and the guy put it on, threw a hoodie over his head, and they're going, you know, and it was like, get this for Halloween. I'm like going, that is dangerous.
Wow. That's frightening.
So he could be John Q. Public, could be anybody. For all I know, I could sit there and say, is that me? Wait, I was having dinner. And, you know,
Yep.
you don't know.
Well, they are saying, a lot of people are saying that they think they're going to get this guy quickly. This is what I heard from a bunch of NYPD higher-ups who were saying they have a handle on who they think this guy might be, and they think they'll have him soon. But, you know, I don't think that's the case, Bill. I don't think
he'll be the guy. I think he'll be a patsy.
I think he's in the wind. I think whoever did this, he's already left the city. He probably was on a flight out of LaGuardia or JFK, like later on that morning. It happened 6:45, which I think, you know, that's when New York is waking up. There's a lot of people on the street in New York at 6:45. He didn't care.
This guy couldn't have been there long. He just casually came up. He knew this guy's schedule. So that means there was somebody in the know that had his rundown, and he was walking along nonchalant. He didn't expect anything. He was just going to the meeting.
Yeah.
You know, they say, no, I don't know. He could have been a real bastard in real life. I don't know. They say he was a nice guy.
Yeah.
But either way, what did he have in his knowledge
Yeah.
that somebody wanted snuffed? And it smells.
I heard
to
this
me
morning on one
of
of the
government hit.
a talk show out of Boston, who I listened to in the morning, and the host was saying, you know, is New York going to become like a hit city where they start having? And I thought to myself, the guy I listened to in the morning out of Boston is a smart guy.
Cooner.
Yeah, Jeff Cooner. But I thought that's a little bit naive, Jeff, because New York has a history of hits. The mob hits in New York that happened in Manhattan were almost on a regular basis. I remember when I was in New York, this is going way back, I mean, before I was, but there was a famous hit in the Sheraton Hotel in New York on 57th, I believe, on 57th Street, where a guy went in to get a haircut, and they shot him in the barber's chair. And that made all and that, by the way, happened only a few streets over from where this hit took place. So it's not like New York is suddenly becoming something different. New York has a history. You know, think of all the mob hits that happened back in the 70s and the 60s, you know, where guys would come out of a restaurant and bang, bang, they're gone. So it's not. I felt like calling Jeff and saying, Jeff, it's not that unusual. It has happened many times before. It's a big city. It's a huge city, and it's not like, you know, going to even a city like Boston. Boston would be like one of the boroughs of New York. That's how big.
Oh, come on. Boston has had its share of corruption.
Oh, sure.
And people of foul play. And let's face it. You know,
yeah.
They sit there and they say, we're a country of immigrants. Well, we are a country of immigrants. And some of these countries that these immigrants come from, that is a standard way of life.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing has changed in history. And a lot of it's transplanted here. And there's a lot of dirt that came from Boston in its history, a lot of dirt in history in New York, even out west.
You know, Bill, what you said, though, a little while ago is so true. You would have thought that a guy who was CEO of the largest healthcare company in the United States
He felt safe.
would have had a group of security people covering his back, literally. And he was just walking down the street by himself. I mean, he could have been, you know, anybody, this guy. And he just walked right by the shooter, by the way. It wasn't like they came from a different direction, or the shooter came out from between a car. The target walked right by, Thompson walked right by the hitman and kept going in the opposite direction. The hitman turned around and shot him in the back. And, I think I think the guy is a professional shooter. I think people are saying, well, if he was a professional shooter, he wouldn't have had his gun jammed twice. Well, I would submit that maybe every time the guy commits a hit, he doesn't use the same gun. Maybe part of the deal is he gets the gun handed to him in a kit, like you just said, before he does a hit. And this was maybe a new gun, an older gun or something. It didn't have the feel, but I'm just saying, because he probably threw the gun away. If you're looking for that gun right now, it's probably in the East River. He probably tossed it off of the Brooklyn Bridge. That's just
they keyed into on the unique backpack, and that really needs to be identified. And who uses those kind of backpacks?
Well, some people are saying that it would probably be a place where you could put change of clothes. He could change his jacket, his pants, even like you were talking about. Well, he was wearing a black mask. I was thinking. I said to my wife last night, that's another thing that COVID gave us. It gave us masks, a normalcy about people wearing masks in public. Even to this day, if you go on an airplane or on a bus, or you're even walking down the street in a city, you will still walk by people who are wearing masks. They don't have to wear them, but they wear them. And I'm thinking, not too long ago, if you go back like 5 or 6 years, if you were walking down the street with a mask on, people were saying, "What's your problem? What's with the mask?" Now it's like no big deal. So this guy had a mask on the street, walking down the street, no big deal, and this happens. I question whether they're going to get him anytime soon. If he's the professional, he's gone. He's in the wind. He's back where he came from. And who knows where that is? He may be, he may be a farmer out in the Midwest who this is a side job of his. I mean, you'll never find the guy. If he's any good at all, he'll just disappear. If he's as good as he may be, he doesn't have a record because he hasn't been caught. And if he doesn't have a record, they're not going to be able to find him in any database.
There's more to this story than meets the eye, and in my mind, it's a professional hit. It's what was he about to present, and, where does it go? But chances are it probably goes to a prominent name out there that we don't know.
Yeah, and we're going to find out. I think you're going to see this story, unfortunately, like so many stories, kind of fade away. In the next day or two, it'll be old news, and then you'll wonder whatever happened to that story. Did you ever get that guy in New York? I don't think so.
Well, there's a lot of things out there going on in the news, that they're going to bring up or try to do. And, it just seems like Trump could sit there and nominate Jesus Christ himself for a governmental position, and the left would find a reason why this person, that Jesus is a bad guy,
Yeah, well, they have I'm going to play this for you in a second. They have a routine that they're kind of proud of, apparently, because Nancy Pelosi felt comfortable enough to, a year or so ago, go out in front of the public, and I guess it was a few years ago. She was explaining something to the media, and I want you to listen very carefully to what she's saying here. She describes what a wrap-up smear is. Listen.
Down hospitals and the rest of it. So they don't want them to see that contrast, so they focus on something else. And it's a diversionary tactic. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You demonize, and then we call it the wrap-up smear. If you want to talk politics, call it the wrap-up smear. You smear somebody with falsehoods and all the rest, and then you merchandise it. And then you write it, and if they see it's reported in the press that this, and this, so they have that validation that the press reported the smear, and then it's called the wrap-up smear. Now I'm going to merchandise the press's report on the smear that we made. And it's a tactic, and it's self-evident.
You see, did you hear that? She was almost bragging about it. like she knows what it is. For those of you who couldn't follow what she was saying, she was describing something called the wrap-up smear, where you create a narrative, a story. You put out some false facts. You run with a lot of false allegations. You just throw them out there. The media picks up those allegations and writes a story on those allegations, which then validates the initial lies that were put out in the first place. Because now the politicians can point to the different news organizations to say, well, I just saw it in the news this morning that so-and-so's done this, 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 and this. They lie, the media picks it up, and then they take the media story and it validates their initial lie. It makes their lies truthful. It's the wrap-up smear. It's what they're doing now. It's what they did to Matt Gaetz. And Matt Gaetz literally fell by the wayside because of a wrap-up smear. The difference.
I don't think he's done yet, though. I think he'll come back and bite him in the ass.
Well, I hope so, because I think the guy has a lot to offer. Pete Hegseth was making the rounds in the Capitol yesterday, and they were asking him how he's doing, and here's what he said.
Wonderful process to go through and meet with senators and talk to them, especially members of the Senate Armed Services Committee, whose passion is the Defense Department, and our warfighters, to hear what they want to do to make sure that department is properly oriented for the threats of the world and make sure that we're putting the warfighters first. That's what Donald Trump asked me to do. Your job is to bring a warfighting ethos back to the Pentagon. Your job is to make sure that it's lethality, lethality, lethality. Everything else is gone. Everything else that distracts from that shouldn't be happening. That's the message I'm hearing from senators in that advise and consent process. It's been a wonderful process.
You know, and one of the other things that, he was walking up some stairs yesterday and someone said, are you going to drop out? And he said, well, why would I do that? Yeah, the president put me here to do something, I'm going to do it. And it almost looked like the reporter was disappointed with the answer. He also said that he had talked to the president yesterday, and the president had said, hang in there, be tough, be strong. So I don't think he's now this morning. There's a report. Let me see whether I can find it. It says that I believe
all the GOP
is siding with this nomination, that Hegseth is going to be nominated. There was one, I guess,
rhino,
the one guy from Texas who is really depressing. What's his name? Cornyn from Texas. He just walked away when asked the question, almost like he was disappointed, almost like he was kind of forced into making the choice he's going to make. But now they're yesterday.
Well, a lot of ways you could read that.
But mind you, yesterday, the media was saying he's done. Hegseth is toast. They came out, Bill. The New York Times came out with an email yesterday. We probably talked about this, where Hegseth's mother had written an email to Pete saying she was disappointed in his decision to leave his second wife, the mother of 3 kids. And Hegseth, you have to understand something, folks. This guy was in combat twice. This guy I think he has a Bronze Star or a Silver Star. He's a decorated soldier. A lot of guys bring a lot of baggage back with them from combat. Even the good-looking, handsome ones do, too. You understand? I mean, people don't seem to realize that there's a lot of stuff that they've seen that none of us will ever see, And so the mom wrote an email to Hegseth basically saying, I'm disappointed in you doing this, divorcing your wife. You should be rethinking this. And the media got their hands on this email. Now, I'm thinking that the only one who probably had a copy of that email was maybe his second wife. So possibly it came from her. Maybe not, but I don't know who else would have this email. It would be the mom, it would be Pete Hegseth, and maybe one other person, all right? And that's possibly the source. But Pete's mom called the producers at Fox and said, look, I got to go on and repudiate what the New York Times has said because it's nonsense. because 2 hours later, 2 hours after I sent that email, I sent a letter saying I'm sorry I sent the email. Listen, here's what she said.
For the most part, and what I've heard you say this morning is you wanted to come on because that was not the whole story.
No. And I want people to look at Pete and judge people or understand him for who he is today and to disregard the media. That was 7 years ago. And most of it is misinformation. And the way they threaten you, I think, is very hurtful. And the person who leaked it, I don't know who that is, and I don't think I will need to. But Pete is a new person. He's redeemed, forgiven, changed. I think we all are after 7 years. I believe he's the man for the job.
That's Pete Hegseth's mom, Penelope, and she's saying, look, we all change. 7 years is a long time. 7 years is a long time. A lot of things change in 7 years. You know, you do things. If you asked anybody, are you the same person you were 7 years ago? I doubt anybody would say absolutely. I'm the same guy.
Well, the point is, she retracted what she said just hours after she did it because she hastily sent out a letter because she probably liked his ex-wife, and you know, you go into a relationship thinking this is my forever person, but life doesn't always work that way. You don't know that you found that forever person until you find them, and they, and that sounds like kind of a weird thing to say, but you don't know until all of a sudden one day, you get up in the morning and go, wow, it's been 20 years. This is my forever person. I found what I was looking for.
Right. And, people say, well, he left 3 kids. Well, not really. Everybody says he's a great dad. Even now, he's a great dad. So he hasn't abandoned his responsibility as a father. It just the marriage didn't work out. Mm-hmm. But really, the fact of the matter is, what business is it of anybody, even of the congressman? His job would be defense secretary. And by the way, I want to remind people about all the other people who were nominated for these positions who got approved by Congress. Rachel Levine. Hello. That guy, Sam, what's his name? Brinton, who was dressing in red dresses and long high heel shoes and red lipstick and stealing luggage. That guy, I think, went through Senate approval. Enough already.
Look at Ketanji Jackson in
the
Supreme Court.
God, Bill.
And she is proving over and over and over again with all of her money and her vast education, she's still an idiot.
Oh, it has nothing to do with race. If you criticize a minority nowadays, the left, not the right, the left attacks you as being a racist. And believe me, if Ketanji Brown were an Irish guy with a beer belly, it wouldn't make it. I'd still say that's a numbskull. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is just. She made a comment yesterday trying to make a correlation between children, transgender children, being denied these sex altering, life changing surgeries at like 2. She compared it to interracial marriage. It was like anybody who listened to her say that, it's like, say what? What's she talking about? And here's the thing that gets you.
Well, it sounds to me like she's a racist.
Well, Bill is, she's a
racist.
But these people have no problem saying the dumbest things. It's because we're giving these numbskulls a platform. Like they are smarter than the average bear, to quote Yogi. I mean, this woman, she says these stupid things with the suave and the character of somebody who's saying something profound. It's like, oh my God!
Look,
listen to yourself.
Racists come in every color. But they might have been. They probably knew this when she was being confirmed. but nobody had the cojones to sit there and say, you know what, let's give her the litmus test,
Yeah.
and find out that she would fail it, because from that statement, just in its raw source, that sounds to me very racist.
Well, she said, do you remember when she was being considered, when she was going through the nomination hearings? They asked her, can you describe what a woman is?
Oh, yeah, she couldn't.
She couldn't describe what. Now, I'm sitting there thinking, wait, okay, you are I know this sounds crazy, but Ketanji, you are a woman, and you can't describe what a woman is? And
Well,
what a numbskull,
you look at her, you look at this ACLU attorney that was talking about, I thought it was a guy with a weird voice. It's a woman that became a guy.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave that one alone. But either way, and they, I don't know, she, he, what, it, they were sitting there saying that 2-year-olds, know what sex they are at that age and should be allowed to make a choice. Excuse me, what?
Yeah, I'm old school. Okay, if you're, it's like the old adage: if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, odds are it's a duck. Okay, so I think of this guy the same way. The guy has a mustache. He's taking testosterone or whatever. He dresses in men's clothing, but he was born female. And if you did his DNA right now, he'd be a female. So I'm sorry, I'm old school. He can call himself. Look I will, if I saw him in person, I would be polite to him. But in my mind, it doesn't mean that I have to change how I feel. I think he is a she, because he was born a she. I know it's old school, but then again, I'm old school.
Mm-hmm. Ask Mr. Rogers. He would know stuff like this.
Yeah, yes, Mr. Rogers. Well, you know what? He would say this.
Boys are boys from the beginning.
Exactly.
If you were born a boy, you stay a boy. Girls are girls right from the start. If you were born a girl, you stay a girl and grow up to be a lady. Only girls can be the mommies. Only boys can be the daddies.
Yeah, I mean, they would be picketing his studios today for singing that song on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Only boys can be boy. It's yes. If you're born a boy, you stay a boy. Not anymore.
No, sir.
Oh my gosh. You see where Speaker Mike Johnson finally announced no more aid to the Ukraine. He says we're going to wait and take the new commander-in-chief's direction. It's about time, Mike. You really slow-walked all this. I mean, suddenly he realizes there's a new sheriff in town, and maybe we shouldn't just send the money over in buckets. You know what they want?
Well, maybe we ought to cancel all pledges because, I'm of the nature that, or I'm of the opinion that, Mr. Potato Head in the White House there has been giving away money willy-nilly.
Oh.
And, you can make a contract. I'm going to buy this car and I'm going to make these monthly payments. And one day you sit there and go, you can have your car back and let's cancel this deal right now because I bought into a lemon and I don't want it anymore. Well, he got us into some lemon deals. Let's get out of them and quit sending the money. We can't do anything about the money that we've already given, but we sure as hell can stop the rest.
Bill, they said he gave instructions to his staff.
To spend it all.
Yeah, spend it all. Before his term of office is over, make sure all of that money is spent. We're talking billions of dollars.
And how much of that money is going to be spent and kicked back to somebody's pocket?
Well, there's a lot of people who believe that's the Biden way of doing things.
Well, then I think that we ought to audit the entire administration. Let's see. You make $50,000 a year, but you have $700,000 in deposits. So where did that $650 come from?
Well, see, this is not a new thing that they've been doing. They've been doing this for decades in Washington, stealing the people's money and then burying it, squirreling it away so you can't find it. So they've got their ways of burying these deals. There's a lot of people who say the money we send to the Ukraine has gone over to the Ukraine, and then the Ukraine funnels some back to the Washington politicians. It's like a cycle back to the I don't know what they do with it or how they hide it or how they transfer it, but supposedly that's what they do.
There are things in the budget that you don't see or know about. You know, they make promises. The government makes promises, and they might say, "Yeah, let's take $700 million and give it to this." It's a promise, but it's there's nothing in paper about it, so it doesn't have to be accounted for in the official budget. So it's not a debt, but that money is still paid. It was promised, and it's deeper in debt that we are. Does that all that money go to what they say it was going for,
No.
or because it's not really documented? Is that just
Well,
don't
do
say
you remember?
anything, Bill?
Was it last week? But we were talking about this last week. They did an audit of the Defense Department and the Pentagon. They did an audit of the Pentagon, and they were like several $1 billion that they couldn't account for. It's like, oh, we can't account for that. We don't know where it went. I mean, can you imagine if you were home and you were doing your budget on your family's budget, and you turned around to your wife and said, "Oh, hey, look at, I know we had X amount of money coming in, but I can't account for like maybe 40% of it. But it's no big deal. It's not, I mean, that would be divorce court."
Well, you know the United States in debt. We're in over our head, but you just don't know how deep the hole is. I think Elon Musk did a book back in the early 2000s, the '00s, and he explained that and what I was talking about, the unaccounted for money, and that they just sit there. It's not part of that. And he talked about Social Security, all the programs where they've made promises that they have no way, there's no way they can legitimately pay back, but they don't account for it.
One of the biggest promises they made to the American people was that they wouldn't touch Social Security. That was a third rail. You don't touch the money in Social Security. And I think it was under Nixon. I could be wrong. Or maybe it was Johnson. But it was back then, somebody said, no, or maybe it was Clinton. Anyway, one of those guys back there said, ignore that, folks. There's too much money there, and we really could use it, so we'll borrow from Social Security. When they borrow, by the way, in the federal government,
they don't pay it back.
They don't pay it back. They take, and they call it borrowing. So if anybody's put Social Security in the hole, it's been the politicians, folks. They did it. And by the way, Bill, speaking of politicians, before we forget, you see where the Biden regime is thinking about giving a preemptive pardon to Liz Cheney, Adam Schiff, Anthony Fauci, and others. Think about that.
He is going to pardon the whole gang and get them off the hook. Now, Schiff is out there saying, no, don't do it. But he's doing that because he knows he's going to get pardoned.
Yeah.
He just wants to be able to sit there and stand like he's above everybody else. But I'm sorry, Shifty. You're guilty too.
What it says to me is you don't get a pardon unless you did something wrong. You don't get a pardon unless you committed a crime, even if it's a preemptive pardon. The fact of the matter is it's a preemptive pardon because Biden and his administration know that those people willingly did something wrong in the name of his administration. And by the way, they're not doing it for Cheney, Schiff, and Fauci. They're doing it for Joe Biden and his family. They don't want to bounce. They know those people can testify against Biden. So if you give them a pardon, now people will say, well, they still can testify. As a matter of fact, now they can testify, and they can't go on the 5th because they've been pardoned already. So, but still, Liz Cheney, Adam Schiff. I think before this is over, you're going to see Biden's brother. You're going to see Jill Biden is going to get a pardon, preemptive pardon. Everybody in the Biden family is going to have a blanket preemptive pardon, and he'll excuse it by saying, well, these are vindictive times, and we're afraid that somebody's going to come after us for no good reason. I think he's going to pardon himself too. I think Joe will pardon himself. You watch. I think this guy has no pride at all. He will use the pardon like it's yesterday's newspaper.
Yeah, like he's excusing a cough or a bodily function. He's excusing more than that. This guy is guilty of sin.
Yep.
And he's got a history of it, and he's been a liar and a cheat all his life. Go back and read the history. Don't follow the mainstream news, because you know what? These clowns have got something vested in this too, to be doing all that they do.
Yesterday, maybe it was the day before yesterday, Scott Jennings, I still don't know how that guy stays at CNN, because he's like the lone conservative voice of rational thinking on CNN, and he's surrounded by a sea of liberal lunatics who think they're so frigging smart. It's like, oh my God, come on. I mean, would you please listen to your show tapes at the end of the day and realize how dumb you sound? Anyway, they had a round table the day before yesterday. They were talking about Trump and what he's going to do when he becomes president. I want you to listen to the leftists. They're saying essentially that Trump is going to send troops in to take over the states, and they're going to use weapons against the citizens. It's just mind-boggling. And listen to Scott Jennings. Again, he has to be the guy in the CNN building who has his office down by the furnace room in the basement, with no view, squirreled away with one light and a 1988 computer. I mean, this guy is all alone in the darkness, I think, because they got to not like the guy. He's light years ahead of the other people there as far as intelligence goes. Listen to how it went.
I don't want to be bringing back waterboarding. I don't want to be a country that tortures people, especially if we're the kind of country that's going to be using the military against our own citizens. This kind of thing concerns me.
What do you mean use against our own citizens?
I'm talking about sending...
blue states behave. What do you mean? What are you talking about?
I'm talking about sending the military into blue states to make them behave. Getting Gavin Newsom under control, getting J.P. Pritzker under control.
What are you
making
talking about? What do you mean, like sitting into the state capitol to commandeer the state government?
I mean, I hope not, but he's definitely talked about that. I don't know why you're acting like you've never heard
the military to suppress, in the Black Lives Matter era, those protests in the street. He was there himself.
I just make sure I understand your position, that you believe Donald Trump is going to use the military to set up effectively like coups in state capitals of states that he didn't win?
I think you're taking it a step or two.
No, she said make blue states behave, and she also said round up immigrants. That's not true. Well, it's deport illegal immigrants.
Scott,
I think you're just
I don't know why you're acting. No.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. Hold on. I mean, look. I think you're right. Let's be precise. Trump has wanted to use the military to do things domestically that actually the military is not allowed to do. I think that's the point that she's making.
Like what?
Like deport illegal immigrants. That is actually not a function of the military.
The military can absolutely be used to work with local officials to provide military resources, but working with other parts of the federal government and local officials. We already send the National Guard to the border.
Not against the will of the local officials or the will of the state government. We have a federalist government here.
The military is not supposed to take up arms against American citizens.
They're not. You keep saying that. This is about illegal immigration. You all keep saying American citizens.
Well, how do we know whether the people are illegal or not?
Well,
we know after they're shot.
We have 1.6.
We know after they die.
We have 1.6 million people in this country who've already received deportation orders from courts. They are here illegally.
No, it's always back to illegal immigration with people who support Donald Trump. It's always back to illegal immigration. But that's not the only thing that we're talking about here. We're talking about the American people. We're talking about taking up arms against them. With a military that's supposed to be protecting them.
This is not right. You cannot say Donald Trump is sending the military to round up.
That's what he said.
That is what he is saying,
Scott. That's not what I'm saying.
Totally false.
He said that.
Totally false.
That's what he said.
Scott, Trump.
We were in the fever swamps, Andy. I'm sorry.
What is your dispute here? I'm not even really
because they're saying that he's sending the military to shoot or round up American citizens.
We did not say shoot.
I think
people,
the issue.
Scott.
The issue.
You said he just said take up arms.
Scott, why are you acting like Trump
here? I mean,
look, I did say take up arms because when you send the army in, that's what they're there for.
Elliot.
The left is just going off the rails. You hear that one guy who was, I did say take up arms. Well, listen, if you have American citizens who are violating the law, all right, if they're in the streets when they've been told to disperse, if they're in the streets breaking stuff and doing crimes, then they are not just American citizens, they're criminals. You know, I don't understand the logic of some of these people on the left. They talk about you can't just go around with the military. I was thinking as they were saying that they're all younger people. When I say younger people, maybe they were all in their late 40s, early 50s. They probably don't remember back in I don't know, when they sent the National Guard into Selma with George Corley Wallace. You know, that was the National Guard going. You know, they have the ability. The military has the ability to protect us from invaders. Okay, and the people who have come across the border, technically, have invaded our country. Okay, they didn't come here legally. People may say, well, they're just women and children. No, there are a lot of military-aged men who disappeared into the fabric of our country. We don't know what the hell they're here for. Now we're being told by Homeland Security that prepare for some kind of terrorist attack because we know there are cells in this country. We just don't know where they are or what they're going to do. You know? So the military has an obligation, not just when I hear them say, well, they can't do that. Yes, they can. Yes. If for example, Memphis was being attacked by some radical group, right? And the radical group may consist of people who are here illegally and maybe American citizens. They can send the troops in to squelch that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just find it mind-boggling that they make it sound like they understand the law. You know, I was thinking, if what they're saying is true, then the entire Union Army, right, attacking the Southern forces was illegal. Because technically the Southerners were still American citizens. They were so much so American citizens when the war was over, the president allowed them just to go home and be citizens again. Just go about your lives. Leave your gun. If you have a horse, take it and go home. That's what they did. So if their premise is correct, the entire premise of the American Civil War, 650,000 casualties, the most costly war in our history, that entire thing was illegal. It wasn't, that's their thinking. They don't know what they're talking about.
No, they don't. And you know what? I mean, you know, we had that weird shooting going on in New York yesterday, but I'm waiting for a bigger shoe to fall. You know, are the two connected or something? Or, you know, I don't know.
You know, Bill, I was going to tell you, it's funny you should say that. I'm very concerned, and I'm not very happy about the fact that over the weekend, President Trump is flying to France and going to be there for the ceremony at Notre Dame. I think it's an unnecessary risk that he's taking. If there's a group out there that wants to do him harm, take him away from his protective setting, put him in the middle of a crowd of strangers, even if he has a cadre of people who are supposed to be protecting him, he's still going to be a target, and I worry for the guy. I don't know if it's a good idea.
Well, you know, I think it's a personal and political statement that he's making, so I get it, but I also feel that, you know, he's putting himself in harm's way. Joe would never put himself in harm's way for anything.
No, he'd go to Angola, fall asleep.
Well, no, he went there to pledge money, and well, that's because he's such a kind-hearted fellow. No, he's getting kickbacks from this money.
Well,
you know,
it's funny you should say that. I got a short clip. I want to play this for you, Bill. This is Jesse Waters talking about Biden's African trip, and he kind of mentions what you were just saying. Listen.
Well, there's one thing Biden's consistent about. No matter where he is or what he's doing, he looks lost. Here's the president in Africa. Biden might look confused, but he's getting very comfortable. He might not come back.
We Bidens are like cool relatives. We show up when we're invited. We stay longer than we should. Eat all your food. Don't go into the home.
Here's the real reason Biden's in Africa. The media is not going to tell you this. He's building rail lines that connect mines so little African kids can dig up the minerals we need for the Green New Deal. You know, so we can have windmills that pockmark our coastlines and subsidized electric cars no one wants. Yeah, that's why he's there. Biden ruined his legacy in America, so he's trying to make one in Africa. Quote, an African trip probably matters more to Biden, who is searching to establish a legacy in Africa, than for Africa, which is already preparing for his successor.
You know, I got to tell you, when I edited that piece, the section in the beginning with the Angolan, I guess it was the anthem, but my God, it was like, you know, the 7th grade band, right, with their trumpets. I mean, it was like, yeah, your eyes crossed when you heard this band. I shortened it. I'm going to play just that part again. Listen to this. This just listen to the music. I had to cut the piece of music down, but you kind of get the idea of how this band sounded. Oh, I'm sorry. You listen to it, and I swear, there are 5th grade bands that sound better than that band. I was thinking, oh, my God, do these guys know? Have they ever practiced together, or is this the first time? You know, the president's going to be in town, grab your trumpet. It was...
Go to school, get the best players you got.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Hey, you know what? It's they're... Look, you know, that band is better than Jill's decorating skills at the White House.
Oh, my dear God, Bill. Oh, my God. That is the worst. Have you... I had a chance.
Yes, I've seen it. And you know what? Thank God I had a leftover vomit distress bag from an old Vincent Price movie. It came in handy. But, you know, Biden's talking about all this, and he's giving money for the railways to go let the kids go and dig up the stuff, slave labor, child labor that he's going to do. He's getting kickbacks, by the way. And then you got the Green New Deal. Wind power is not the solution. We've got actually a drought, a wind drought that's going on where these things aren't spinning.
Yeah.
Takes a lot of oil to make the plastic, make the metals, make the engines, make the wires that bind the generators up there that lubricate the thing, and they don't last long. The parts are not cannot be recycled.
Yeah.
So it's all dead, just like about everything runs off of oil. Now, the only thing that's in the industry that's out there, ironically, you know, as you want to poo-poo Elon, you know, they call it the water engine. It's a hydrogen engine. And that being said, we have an abundance of water on the planet. You can extract it from the air if you want to.
You can take it from the ocean, Bill. Desalinate it from the ocean.
But the point is, what is the pollution or the byproduct of a hydrogen engine?
Moisture, isn't it?
Steam, air, water.
Yeah.
So, in other words, it emits what it uses. So it's self-recycling.
I think that's where that car. I think that's where the Tesla. I have no inside information, but because he's such a forward-thinking guy, I got a feeling you're going to see them come out with that kind of an engine for the Tesla.
Well, after the one judge screwed him in his salary, and I get it, you know, it's a lot of money for $56 million.
Yeah.
You know, but his stocks are worth more than that, which means that company is probably close to, you know, I'm just pulling a number out of the sky, but it's probably rocketing up to trillions.
You know what happened? The judge in Delaware, by the way, which who else comes from Delaware? Joe and family. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying. So this judge in Delaware says, Elon, that's an excessive salary. I don't think you should have a right to have it. No good reason for it. So they go back to the company, right? And the company says, no, we want to give him $56 million or $58 million because we think he deserves it for what he's done for this company. He's made us billions of dollars, right? So they go back to the judge and they say, Your Honor, we went back on your advice and we presented what you suggested to the company, and the company considered what you said. No, we think he deserves the $56 million, and we're standing by that. And the judge said, okay, I'm standing by what I said initially. He still can't have it.
Yeah, and the thing is that, and she's able to do that because Tesla was incorporated, from what I understand,
right,
in Delaware.
Yes.
So, after this was all done, he goes, okay, the hell with your corporation. We'll reincorporate in Texas.
Yes.
But she came back and said, well, I still have the say over the thing because it transpired while you were incorporated in Delaware.
Well, I was thinking, Bill, couldn't he just go? The company could say, okay, we're not going to give you $56 million. We're going to give you half of that now and half of that in 6 months.
Well, what he could do is he could just say, you know what? I've formed a new car company. It's going to get my hydrogen engine, and I'm just going to dump all my Tesla stock right now for its full cash value and screw every investor, everybody, and then sit there and say, oh, you want justice? Go to the judge in Delaware because she's the one that did this. In other words,
there are fees that corporations have to pay to the incorporating state. I know that because I have a little LLC in Delaware, by the way, that I'm considering closing down because the fees they're not cheap. And I was thinking his fees must be astronomical. They must make a lot of money off of Tesla and Elon Musk. So
probably do.
Yeah, him taking his business to Texas, I don't think is a small deal at all. I think it's a pretty big deal, and it'll be interesting to see whether he. Look at folks. Don't feel bad for Elon. First of all, he's maybe the smartest guy we got going in the country right now. This guy is amazing. I mean, there may be other people who have equal intelligence in our country. A lot of smart people in the U.S., but he has all the ingredients. He has personality, he has charisma, and he's got brains. He's got the full package. And he does. I mean, I looked at I think I mentioned this yesterday, when they said that there's going to be a private company that's going to compete with NASA. I thought that's a losing proposition. That'll never work. No, it was a losing proposition for NASA because he actually built a company, SpaceX, that is phenomenal. They're miles ahead in development, in research. Amazing. I mean, do you ever see NASA catch a rocket on reentry? Not me. So
yeah, he's got one launch pad with a couple of arms on it, and it catches the rocket.
Yeah.
NASA, we have to use the whole ocean as the mitt.
Yeah.
To catch a part of it.
Yes.
Everything else is garbage.
You got to catch it before it sinks.
Yeah.
He's got. I'll never forget when I saw them land. We saw them catch it, but before that, he had designed rockets to come back and open up legs and land on the pad. They would land on the launch pad. I mean, this catching it in midair was really an interesting move. But before that, he had already designed it so they were reusable. I mean, this is how this guy thinks. He dares his people to think out of the box.
Yeah.
And don't think down the road 20 years like NASA does. I mean, think next week, next month, next year. Why? If you can do it now, do it now. Don't think you have to wait like NASA does.
Dare to be different.
Yeah.
Dare to be different. It's an old line, but he uses it, and it's worked well for him. And people go, well, he's not a smart guy. This technology Tesla was there. He bought it, and then he just marketed a thing, and it made it better. Well, that's a smart guy, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't reinvent the wheel. He just came in and perfected the wheel.
There are, on a different subject, Bill, you see where some of these people that Trump has nominated didn't fit the Trump mold. And you wonder how that happened, right? And I think this goes to, we've said this on the show before. You and I have talked about how there's probably some people who are giving him bad advice and aren't thinking of his best interest. He made a nomination of this guy, Chad Chronister, who's a sheriff down in, I believe in, where is he a sheriff? He's in Hillsborough County. I think that's in Florida, or maybe in.
Yeah, it is. I think.
Yeah, and everyone thought, oh, well, this guy, that name sounds familiar. And then they found out this guy was woke. He was an advocate of diversity, equity, and inclusion. He was a supporter of the LGBTQ+. He was criticizing and suppressing ministers in churches and stuff like that. I mean, this guy didn't fit the MAGA Trump mold. And so the media, there was a backlash when the announcement was made because people in the MAGA movement looked and said, this guy's terrible. How did you pick him? Well, apparently, I really believe this. I think he has so many choices and so many decisions to make that he probably, on the lesser ones, he lets other people kind of make the decision. Well, you pick that and let me know who it is and follow the guidelines. Well, somebody didn't follow the guidelines. And so yesterday, this guy, Chronister, came out with he said over the past several days, as the gravity of this very important responsibility set in, I've concluded that I must respectfully withdraw from consideration. There is more work to be done for the citizens of Hillsborough County and a lot of initiatives I am committed to fulfilling. And he goes on, but the fact of the matter is, he made it sound like it was his decision to withdraw. So Trump came out and he said, let me see, I have it here, somewhere in my sweaty little palms.
No, I took him out.
Yeah, essentially, he said, no. Let's be clear about one thing. He said, besides, he didn't pull out. I pulled him out because I did not like what he said to my pastors and other supporters. He didn't realize, this says to me, that this was a decision that was made without his input.
Let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
When you become president, how many appointments do you have to do? 10,
I heard
20, 50, 100, thousands?
I think it's. I thought I heard the figure 2,000.
Yeah,
judges.
Now, can you sit there and go and give me 2,000 people's names and be able to tell me everything that you know about them?
No, as a matter of fact, Bill, even if it was only 200, it would be a stretch.
I'd be hard pressed at 20. I'll just be honest.
Yeah,
with
you.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's not like President Trump is sitting around and just waiting for new nominee information to come and be put in front of him. He has so many other things he's working on right now. They're already working on their foreign policy, how they're going to approach all these different countries down the road. And so he has other things he's working on. So this guy got by him, and apparently Trump said, when I found out who this guy was, I yanked him. I'd have to wait. He didn't withdraw. I pulled him. Don't think for 1 second, because the Wall Street Journal, which is not, it's a Rupert Murdoch paper, and it's not to be trusted. Fox
paper. Yeah, I know.
Fox isn't meant to be trusted either, Bill. I mean, they do some good things, but
Fox Live, have you seen that thing?
No.
It is garbage.
Really?
The reporters on there are garbage. There's one lady that's on there all the time, long black hair, and she sits there, and you can tell that she's a loosey lefty.
Yeah.
And I'm like going, get this off the TV. And then the person sitting next to me is going, yeah, they're pretty bad. I'm going, we shouldn't watch it because, they focus on the woke and just get rid of them. They're garbage.
When they pulled Roger Ailes off and then the poor guy died, Roger Ailes was the roadmap to conservative success for Fox News. All of their real success was on the back of Roger Ailes. When he was pulled and then he passed away, it was taken over by the sons, James, I believe, and Lachlan Murdoch. And they have wives who are leftists. They go to all the leftist social gatherings in New York, the cocktail parties and stuff. And I guess they wanted to be able to tell all their friends, no, we're changing Fox. It's going to be different. That's why in 2020 they were so bad to their audience, the people who made them the success. They were the first to call Arizona in 2020 before anyone else thought it should have been called. But The point is, now over the past 4 years, they've tried to massage their way back into the goodwill and good graces of the people on the right. And, to a certain extent they have, but the fact of the matter is they are still what they are, not to be trusted. Just when you think they're going to be on our side, they zing you. And I would submit, Bill, with all due respect, that I don't think people should put a lot of faith in any broadcast media. I like to watch Newsmax now. I think Newsmax is a good network, fairly reliable, extremely conservative in their talk programs. But, every so often they'll slip something and then you go, wait, that doesn't sound right.
Because, you can't sit there and go, excuse me, but if you want to work for Newsmax, you have to be conservative. Could you fill out this political questionnaire? You can't do that.
No.
So you're not going to be able to protect yourself from every left-wing person out there. The woke will try to infiltrate you, and they do.
Yes.
They have, and they do, and they will get their little digs in here and there, and you can't fire them for it. So
yeah,
you're in a damned if you do and damned if you don't situation. And in situations like that, especially when I feel frustrated, I get myself a cup of right side coffee.
Do you really? Does it work
Yes,
for you,
I
Bill?
do.
Does it work for you?
It does work for me.
Yes. Right Side Coffee should work for everybody. You can find it, by the way, on our web storefront. What you do is you go to rightsideshop.com, and you'll see sweatshirts, T-shirts, baseball hats, cups, all our, as Bill says, swag. There. Yes.
Yeah.
It's all there, but also you'll find Jim and Bill's Right Side Coffee, medium roast and medium decaf roast, a very delicious coffee. A little piece of everything we sell on that web storefront goes to us, and we're going to turn around and put it into promotion of our show so we can spread the word and make it even bigger over the next 3 years. By the way, I should point out to my friend Bill that, let's see, today is in 11 days, it will be 3 years that we've been doing this. In 11 days.
3 years?
Yeah. In 11 days.
Are we going to get a cake?
I think we should. Maybe what you should do is buy a cake in your studio. I'll buy a cake in my studio, and we'll eat it together.
Yeah, or we can just take it and smash it in our own face so we both get cake in the face.
Wonderful. Anyway.
What a waste of cake. I'll just eat it.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. By the way, we have Juan Jose and the Border Crossers here to sing us out of this commercial because we're stretching this one. Go ahead, Juan Jose, the Border Crossers.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Marvelous, as always. They are.
I only have one thing to say to their singing.
What's that? Yes, that was a slurp of Right Side Coffee. Hey, we were talking about cable television. You see, where Rashida Jones, I didn't know who she was. She's been the president of MSNBC. Rashida, I wouldn't put that on my resume if I were you. She's been the president of MSNBC since 2021. While she may not be there much longer, she apparently is considering making a move somewhere else and leaving the network. You know what gets me? I think she figures that they're going to be showing her the door soon. But I want to remind people who pay attention to things like that don't think for 1 second that what she did to MSNBC was on her alone. The people who hired her knew exactly who they were hiring and what she was going to do to that network, and then they watched what she did to the network over the past 3 years, right? So It's not like, oh my God, we're surprised what she did to MSNBC. No, they knew exactly what she was doing to MSNBC because they hired her to do it.
But,
Go ahead.
She can come back and say, well, all that stuff, that wasn't me, that was them. I was marching to orders, and I paid the ultimate price, but I do know how to run a network into the ground.
Exactly. And now I'd like to do the same thing for CNN. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, you know what? CNN can have her because...
they do have a small circle. Even as that, Bill, in some of these bigger operations, they have a very small circle of people they keep falling back on. They go back.
There's a network that's out there that's probably sucking worse than MSNBC. And they'll go, we can get her. Yes. Oh, we can climb up another 0.2 of a point.
Yeah, we can tell everybody we have the former MSNBC CEO working for us now. Oh, my God. Anyway, my friend, I think that's just about it. We have other things to talk about. I mean, President Trump has asked the court in Georgia to dismiss the Fannie Willis lawfare RICO case. I think.
Well, what's it based on now? I mean, there's really nothing. And see, my question is, if that gets dismissed, what does that do? Because basically, you look at the former mayor of New York.
Yeah, Eric. What's his name? Oh gosh, I can't think of his name. He did Eric Adams. Eric Adams. Is that what you're talking? Oh, you're talking about. You're talking about Rudy Giuliani.
Giuliani, yeah. Rudy Giuliani. His case was basically based on, if it wasn't for the RICO, he wouldn't have been there defending Trump.
I know.
And they wouldn't have been going. And if these people weren't caught on film, none of this would have happened. But if that goes away, doesn't the whole thing go away, and that should stop?
I would think that Rudy's lawyers would have a hell of a case to get everything reversed.
And what about what was the lady, the attorney that went down, going to release the Kraken?
Yeah, I know you're talking about, and Powell.
But all of the people
Sidney
that
Powell.
didn't have, all the people that didn't have the money to fight, a legal department that has unlimited budget. It's easier just to say, I'll cop a deal, and I'll go hide.
You also get to wonder about what's going to happen. You heard what happened with Peter Navarro yesterday. Peter Navarro was a counsel to President Trump in his first term, and then because Navarro said, I can't talk to you, meaning the January 6th committee, I can't talk to you because of executive privilege. I've been bound by the former president, that I am to keep these things secret. So what did they do? They sent him to jail for 4 months. 4 months in prison. No getting out for nothing. And But the good news is yesterday, President Trump announced that Peter Navarro will return to the White House to serve as senior counsel for trade and manufacturing in the next Trump administration.
Yeah. And you know what? Talking about evil, rotten, retaliatory things that the left does. Let's go to the January 6ers. Maybe the head of the Proud Boys, that's sitting there waiting for, them to do whatever they're doing. No, they don't want to have a trial and maybe this guy get free or just get a few years. They're having fun at the behest of Joe Biden, torturing him. Yes.
Yeah.
Torturing him.
You see what China has banned export of precious metals that are used in military technology. Meaning, if we need something to make our missiles work better, and it's a rare mineral that they find in China. China said, no, you can't sell it to the U.S. anymore. That's it. They're cut off.
The bad news is the rare metals that they're talking about.
Yeah,
the biggest supply was in China, and then China was trying to get rights, just like we were trying to get rights to the rare metals that were found. A bigger vein was found
here
in Australia.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So Australia has that, and I think we
have some though. I think in Utah that it's.
I was just going to say they just found a big giant ass vein. Here.
Yeah, but the problem
China,
is
take your precious metals and stick them where the sun don't shine.
But you know what the left did to us? It was on. They found it on government land, so they said you can't drill for it. Now that's going to change, under President Trump.
That'll change right away because you know what we need it for? Our missile and stealth technologies that go on that.
Yes.
What we're going to give China the advantage? Well, Biden would. He was giving everything else we would. Why was this administration that's still in power so hell-bent on dismantling, and so was Obama, on dismantling the government? We even have a woke generation out there that marches to the orders of this administration that goes, oh, you can't fly the American flag.
I know.
It offends me. Well, you know what? If the American flag offends you, get the hell out of the country.
Well, it's interesting, Bill. They have a big issue with Trump using tariffs as a tool to make China, do the right thing, essentially. But the media has no problem and makes no story out of the fact that China has used these rare earth minerals against us. It's you would think that would be a big story. No, that's nothing.
And you know what? Just so the media knows, Mexico, China, when it's made in the United States and goes there, they put a tariff on it.
Yeah.
You know, and so the people that want American stuff have to pay more for it, you know, or they can just buy the stuff that's produced cheaper in their own country from China, which is what they do. So in other words, if you want, you know, this cheap pen that you can snap in half and break, you know, or look at it and it breaks, made in China, then you know what, maybe you should pay a little bit more for it because, you know, you need to, you know, you need to pay to get screwed by like that. Where we can make it in the United States, you know, and we make it well. It's a good pen.
Might be a little more money.
Might be a little more money, but then we're putting people to work here.
Yes.
And you start buying more of the American-made pens will bring down the cost of them and also employ people at a higher wage because we will pay a fair wage versus them paying 10 cents on the dollar.
We've got to get back to making our own stuff. We just have got to do it. We've got to get back to making televisions, making cars. We've got to build it here because when you rely on other countries, they can shut you off. They have a control over you.
Maybe what they have in mind is one world government where everything is everybody's. But then what you have there is a scene out of the Hunger Games where we have different areas, you know, that, you do this, you produce that, and, you know, but you're living under the thumb of the man.
Yeah.
And so forget about that.
One more thing to wrap. Well, we'll leave it on a high note. Almost 24 George Soros-backed prosecutors have been removed from their office since 2022. That's good news. Now, the bad news is I think he had put in like 75 different people in these positions, but it's a step in the right direction. We're starting to remove the Soros-backed prosecutors.
You know, there were some judges that were getting ready to retire that have pulled their retirements. They're lefty judges because, you know, or they're going to retire early so Biden can sit there and put a replacement in before, you know, what they're trying to do is circumnavigate Trump.
You see what they're also doing? They're also saying in the Department of Justice and other places, they've actually asked established, quote, seasoned veterans not to retire, but to stay into the new administration because they need some people who understand what to do. What they're essentially saying is they want to have the deep staters not scurry off into the woodwork, but stay in place so that they can fight against the administration.
So they can screw them up.
Yes. But I don't think it's going to work. I think you're going to see these. If they don't scurry away now, they're going to be removed. You know.
Well, I think, you know, when Trump dismantles different parts of the government and goes, well, you know what? We don't need this department here in D.C. anymore. It's going to move to Idaho.
Yep.
Do they want to move to Idaho, or are we going to get a whole new crew? In other words, well, we're shutting down this department and we're taking your jobs. You can reapply for the job in Idaho. That's what I would do. You can reapply for it.
Yeah.
Can't guarantee you're going to get it.
What did I hear? They had 7,000 FBI employees in Washington, and one of the things that Kash Patel is talking about is taking most of them, if not all of them, and dispersing them around the country. His words were, and I'm paraphrasing, but his words were, hey, you're all police officers, you're all cops, go out and be cops. You're all law enforcement, go be law enforcement. You know? Anyway, I'm looking at the clock on the wall. We've done it again. We've just talked and talked and talked because we had so much to say today. It's amazing. But I'm done, Bill. It's a wrap for me. Hope everyone has a great day. Come back tomorrow. We'll have more to talk about. Bill, it's up to you.
It's up to me?
Yep.
Well, there's only one thing I have to say.
What's that?
Hasta la vista, baby. We're out of here.
This is CRN America.